Now let's get the perspective of our guest commentator on the main talking point on the program today, the Labour Party and its future. We'll also get her to take her take on the latest in the ongoing arrest saga of the human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi, who has apparently been freed on bail, and the dramatic political weekend in Ghana, a country held up as a democratic model in West Africa. And for this, I'm joined now in the studio by the international multimedia journalist and former BBC correspondent, Donu Kogbara, who currently has a column in Vanguard newspaper, is the star of a YouTube channel called Donu's World, co-presents a podcast called Africa Here and Now, and writes for the Europe-based magazine Africa Report. Great to see you again.
Hi, Charles. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while, actually, so it's good to have you back here.
Has been. I've been keeping a low profile because I've been profoundly depressed.
Why have you been depressed?
Well, funnily enough, it's the very topic that you addressed in the first half of this program.
Well, let's get to that then and get your take on it. I was going to say, what would you say, first of all, is the significance of this moment? 5 members of the House of Representatives elected on the platform of the Labour Party defecting to the APC. How earth-shattering a moment is it for the Labour Party and its prime candidate, Peter Obi, even though they're obviously saying that it doesn't really mean that much?
Okay, well, rats have always deserted sinking ships. So, as far as I'm concerned, ta-ra! Bye-bye to those 5. They're entitled to do what they want if it's within the ambit of the law, which I'm not even sure it is. But, you know, for me, the Labour Party is clearly in some kind of crisis. You know, we had all that drama around their chairmanship and the traitor who was on the take from outside elements, the Bure character. You know, I just can't bear people who totally lack honor. So there was that whole crisis. And then there are other things that make it difficult for Labour to, you know, function as a proper party. And, you know, but the thing that depresses me most is actually not so much what the rank and file senators and House of Reps people do.
Well, they're not actually rank and file, are they?
Well, I suppose so. That's,
I mean,
yeah,
they're probably the top
they
echelon
they are
of the
the
party.
upper echelon,
Yeah,
that is true. I used the wrong words. It is Peter Obi himself. I just don't understand how somebody who was this sparkling, inspirational figure, who created a movement almost overnight, galvanized the youths, the intellectuals, anybody who had any iota of principle in their bloodstream, you know, at least admired him to some extent, even if they weren't necessarily going to vote for him for whatever reason. I don't understand how Peter Obi has gone from there to there, because as far as I'm concerned, he's like a firework that has turned into a damp squib. He's become so pedestrian. All I see is him making anodyne statements here and there on TV, wearing babariga and going to donate boreholes in Kafanchan or wherever. You know, it's all good stuff. He's still a good guy. But where is the leader that the opposition needs so desperately? And he's not looking like it. In fact, if you look at I accuse the entire opposition, the PDP, for allowing itself to be derailed by my dear friend Nyesom Wike, by the way, I saw him a couple of months ago, and I told him, if I was a PDP Mandarin, I'd have tossed you out by now. So the PDP, j'accuse. I accuse Atiku of spending more time, all this manana, Dubai type of big man type of thing, not really effectively taking on the government. And I blame Peter most of all, because Peter was a shining star. And so many people committed themselves to him emotionally, myself included. I'm not an obedient anymore, to be honest with you, because he's such a disappointment. I mean, there's no aggression. The government is lousy. I mean, pretty much the only good thing I can think that Tinubu has done is keep herdsmen at bay, because I've noticed there hasn't been any herdsmen shenanigans since Tinubu came in. So I congratulate him for that, if indeed it is his, you know. But it's kind of like, there's so many things this government is doing wrong. Contracts being awarded without due process. economic collapse, rampaging inflation, widespread hunger and disillusionment. And, you never hear anything seriously punchy from Peter.
Well, in fairness to Peter, there is a lot of stuff that he comes up with, a lot of it on social media. I mean, he doesn't go on traditional media most of the time. That's relatively rare, except when he's sort of maybe at a public event or something. But he does come up with a lot of things challenging the government on social media. The question
He's too
that you're
mild,
raising
Charles.
is whether it's effective enough.
He's too mild.
Yeah. Well,
you see,
he should go more for the jugular, basically.
He should go. He's got so much. There's so much he could go for, and he would get so much public support if he did. I'm not just speaking for myself, by the way. I'm speaking for hundreds of obedience, ex-obedience or current obedience, who are really, really disappointed in him. We don't want a weak opposition leader. He's the star of the show. Atiku, PDP, they should also be doing more. But really, Peter is the star opposition player, and he's not doing well enough at all.
Some would argue that there is a lot of behind-the-scenes discussion taking place with the focus of 2027 in mind, that the opposition are trying to realign themselves, particularly the leading candidates, of which Peter Obi is one. And that once that realignment has been completed and everybody knows where they are and how they're now going to face 2027, what their position is going to be, that you're going to see a much more forceful opposition. What is your reckoning on that?
Well, I'm all for, alignments and realignments that will achieve, hopefully, a better result than what we've seen so far. But I still think that we're not going to get the kind of result that is going to be effective against a deeply entrenched and deeply corrupt incumbent party. That basically, maybe Tinubu won the election. I'm not sure he did. Many people think the mandate was stolen. But whatever the case may be, there were a lot of irregularities, okay? So even if Tinubu won, there's so many grounds on which Peter Obi could have been going after him. And I always remember a saying, I am a bit of a firebrand. Look, like everybody else, I can be a coward. I can stand back at times when it is necessary to stand up. But, Peter's a leader, I'm not. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, to be honest with you, I think it's better to die on your feet than to live on your knees if you're a leader.
Some analysts have alleged that the way the elections went in 2023, or perhaps taking on what you're saying and the way some people think, the way the elections were pushed, depending on your point of view, in favor of the APC, and more recently the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states, that there is just no chance for any other party in the way they're currently constituted in 2027. And that a lot of these people who are defecting, for example, are simply coming to terms with that reality and positioning themselves in 2027 by joining the APC.
Well, I can understand anybody. Like I said, rats have always deserted sinking ships, so there'll always be people like that. But there might be people who leave because they're genuinely fed up, And I think Peter needs to do something. Peter Obi, or should I say Mr. Obi, he's not my mate, needs to do something to shore up that support. Because some of these people might not have left if they felt there was any hope. And there will not be any hope if we all sit back and give up and say, oh, well, APC is too powerful, they're too smart, they're too clever for us. 2027 is a done deal. It is not a done deal. The global trend in Africa and other countries is for oppositions to have surprise victories, to turn over the status quo. President Assad of
But then
Syria
you're talking about
has just jumped onto a plane with his family to Syria after his family...
to Russia.
I'm sorry. Yes, exactly. From Syria to Russia, with his family, after his family has ruled Syria for 53 years. All kinds of miracles are happening. In Senegal, a young activist won the election,
And John Mahama we're going to come to that in a minute, actually. So I don't want to jump the gun.
There's so many examples of situations in which...
So let me get your final word on Labour before we move on. What do you think should happen next?
Look, this man won every major city in southern Nigeria. Atiku won Kaduna and one or two others, right? Well, officially, yeah, we can come up with all kinds of fake numbers. But we saw the spoiled ballot papers, the mutilated ballot papers. So we know what really happened. These people have genuine support on the ground in this country. Atiku, Peter, they should do something about it. You know, I mean, someone said to me, oh, well, you know, Peter doesn't want to go to prison. You know, he doesn't want to make too much trouble in case they arrest him. I said, prison was the making of Nelson Mandela. And Tinubu is not a complete animal. He's not going to kill him. Okay? So, what I'm saying is, you see, like Dele Faro to me, which is our next topic.
Yeah.
Look at the groundswell of support and excitement that his rebelliousness has generated.
Well, let's turn to Dele Farotimi. He's an outspoken human rights lawyer who was arrested and detained on alleged defamation and cybercrime charges. He's reportedly been granted bail of 50 million naira, and the trial has been adjourned till January the 29th, 2025. But we understand that he remains in detention until he meets those bail conditions. What's your reaction to that whole saga?
Well, I mean, it's quite clear that Dele Farotimi is being victimized for being a strong government critic. And frankly, that's the type of opposition leader I want. Someone heroic and courageous and outspoken and fearless. And, you know, Dele Farotimi is the light at the end of my tunnel, not Peter Obi. Doesn't that tell you something? So many people have told me that in the past few days. His book is selling like hotcakes. He's a hero.
Yeah, but Dele Farotimi is an activist.
Yeah,
Peter Obi is a politician.
No. Activist and politician can be the same thing. No, but nothing is set in stone. Until Tinubu became a politician, he was a businessman. Do you know what I mean? I mean, politician is not a one-size-fits-all career. You know, you can be a journalist and a politician, an activist and a politician. And so I don't buy the idea that because he's an activist, he's bound to be more dynamic.
Well, when he was arraigned in court, Dele Farotimi, prison officials brought him in handcuffed, like some sort of common criminal, and that's raised a lot of reaction on social media. What do you think of that? Surely there's no need to handcuff sort of a lawyer for defamation, unless it was intended to humiliate him. And we've seen photos of the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, strolling into court without handcuffs for allegedly stealing billions of naira. And here's a man charged with defamation being brought into court in handcuffs. I mean, it certainly feels and looks wrong, doesn't it?
Well, this is the kind of thing that means that this country, it's very easy to be an effective opposition person here because the government is always doing the wrong thing. So that's just a classic example of, you know, absolutely outrageous hypocrisy and, you know, contradictoriness. So, of course, Dele should not be in handcuffs. And of course, Yahaya Bello should. Or if anybody should be in handcuffs, it's the APC member. Who, by the way, after all this rah, I don't suppose he's probably going to spend more than 5 minutes in prison or whatever. And he's not the only one.
Well, he hasn't been found guilty yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's not there. So, yeah, very, very unhappy about how Farotimi is being treated.
But as you said, he's built tremendous public momentum in his favor, hasn't he?
He's a hero. He's what we want. We want someone who's going to take on the establishment. We want someone who will make us leave our houses and barricade, you know, the Supreme Court or whatever. I mean, maybe I should be arrested for sedition or for suggesting that kind of aggression against the authorities. But I am tired. Nigerians are tired. And it's not just a matter of sentiment or emotions, Charles. This country is tottering. It will collapse if care is not taken. And I don't know what's going to happen next, you know?
Well, let's turn to a country that seems to have got it right. We just saw that election. You were starting to comment on it earlier. The election results in Ghana. Some of it has now been officially released, and they look set to confirm the victory of the opposition candidate, former President John Mahama. Results from 12 of the country's 16 regions, that might have changed now, show Mr. Mahama has a strong lead of 60% against his opponent Mahamudu Bawumia, who has 38%. The vice president, that's Bawumia, has already accepted defeat, which is absolutely exemplary. Now, when you consider the fact that Mr. Mahama, who previously led Ghana from 2012 to 2017, when he was replaced by Mr. Akufo-Addo, but also lost in 2020, this latest victory represents something of a stunning comeback, doesn't it, for Mr. Mahama?
It does indeed. And, you know, Mr. Mahama did not do that well the first time round. I hope he does better this time. And it, again, further proves my earlier point, is that all over the world, I mean, you know, the incumbents are being pushed aside, because Bawumia, of course, is the existing vice president of Ghana, and Mahama has done what Trump did, you know, come back after a gap.
Yep.
And I'm very impressed by Bawumia's civilized approach. And not only, apparently, did he congratulate and concede very early on when it became clear that he had lost. And like that crazy one in America who keeps on saying he won in 2020 when he clearly didn't. Hey, that's my American visa revoked. But he also, apparently, Bawumia, has told Mahama that he will do everything to help him make the transition work. And his heart seems to be in the right place.
Indeed.
And that's the sort of person we need in Africa. We need people of a certain class and standard, people who don't think that might is right and any form of theft, corruption, intimidation, and nastiness is the only way forward in life, you know?
I think the biggest lesson from this Ghanaian election is how Ghana has repeatedly, and you touched on it now, shown that democratic elections can work in Africa and that the choice of the people can prevail. And it continues to strengthen the institutions that are in charge of the conduct of the elections, the Electoral Commission, the security agencies, the political parties. I mean, what are the lessons in that for Nigeria, which, let's face it, had had some of the worst and the most troubled elections in Africa, where many people believe that their votes don't count and that the results have been manipulated?
Well, you know, people forget that in 2015, Goodluck Jonathan did exactly what Bawumia has just done.
Yeah, he did.
He conceded, he avoided bloodshed and, you know, sort of vexatious litigation, and he handed over to Buhari. And it's that then public opinion was in favor of the APC, and I salute Jonathan for that civilized gesture, a real gentleman.
But it seems like a very long time ago, doesn't it?
Long time ago, and, you know, kind of frankly, you know, the people he handed over are such sort of bandits. It's, you know, it's such a pity. It's such a pity. And, you know, I came on this program a year ago and I said that if President Tinubu proved me wrong, I would be the first person to hail him. And I stand by that statement. But for as long as he continues to be, in my view, a monumental disappointment, along with most of the people around him, I think the opposition should do what is, you know, move aggressively to achieve what has been achieved in Ghana and other places.
But is it really fair on him, given that he's only been there for, I mean,
the president,
less than 2 years?
Well, you know, we still got time to make good. Some people hit the ground running and do very well from the start. Others people abolish fuel subsidy and plunge us into suffering and stress. My electricity bill, I've only got a 4-bedroom house. My electricity bill is nearly 100,000 naira a week. How am I supposed to do that? I'm not a thief. I'm not a prostitute. Do you know what I mean? Where am I supposed to find that kind of money forever in the long term? So, and there are a lot of people who are far worse off than I am, who are struggling to survive. And I just find that the government is a little arrogant. It doesn't explain itself enough. That's why it's so easy. I feel like hate speech. If you like, I will be your unpaid spokesperson, and I will go after them, you know, because someone needs to. You're not doing enough. And I don't mind being arrested. I'm getting old now, and I'm too fat. I could do with being put somewhere where the food is awful, and I can't eat for a few weeks, you know?
Donu, you are absolutely superbly interesting and brilliant. And I want to thank you very much indeed for coming in. You've really made this part of the show enormously interesting. Donu Kogbara is the international multimedia journalist, former BBC correspondent, currently has a column in Vanguard newspaper. You really ought to read it. And she's also the star of a YouTube channel called Donu's World. She co-presents a podcast called Africa Here and Now and writes for the Europe-based magazine Africa Report. What a delight to have you.
Oh, thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much indeed.
You've cheered me up today.
Well, you have certainly cheered me up as well.
I hope Peter cheers me up sometime soon.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.